Okay, so I'm going to endeavour to provide for you a short and terse review of the Nokia Flip 2720. This phone came out in the autumn of 2019, and at the same time Nokia produced the, well actually it's HMD isn't it, but they produced the Nokia 800 Tough, which is exactly the same phone inside, and therefore is the same operating system and does everything the same way, it's just a different body. I watched numerous reviews of both this phone and the Nokia 800 Tough, and there were some questions that weren't answered for me, so I wrote a message to probably 30 plus YouTubers, didn't get a single reply. Actually, that's not entirely true. I got one reply from a gentleman who said he had broken the phone and wasn't able to answer my questions, which is ironic because the phone he was reviewing was the 800 Tough. So that is quite comical. Anyhow, there's a few things about this that I'd like to just show you, which I don't think were covered on the other reviews, the ones that I watched. I'll try not to cover too many things that were covered because there's no point, is there? First thing is, when you open the phone, it'll open to whatever it was that you were last on at the time you used the phone. That's quite useful. That home screen is editable. You can remove the clock and the date and have nothing there. You can put your own picture there, etc. If you get something coming in, a WhatsApp message or a text message, it'll appear on that screen. That screen will light up. You can't stop it from doing that. And then there'll be a little note at the bottom. Instead of the date, which will tell you have something there, when you open it up, there'll be a little circle at the top with a number in it to show you that you have a notification and how many notifications. And then you press that button there, and your list of notifications will appear there. You can then scroll to select. That's all well and good. This button here is the return button. That closes the current app, or if you're writing a message and therefore you're in the text box, that will delete a character. If you press the end call button when you're in a program, it closes it. In text messaging, when it closes it, it asks you if you want to save the message you're writing. That's quite handy. In the other programs, such as well, I don't know what it does in email, to be fair, I haven't tried that. But in WhatsApp, it just closes it, message gone, which is obviously quite frustrating if you've just spent a few minutes writing quite a long message. There is a way around that, so let's look at how you might do that. Now, to get to that point, I'm going to explain this button here, which is a button that you can use to select something. You can choose what that button does. I've chosen for it to open my messaging. So I click on New Message, I go down here. One of my questions was about predictive texting. The predictive texting on this phone is actually quite good, but still not brilliant. I'm writing the predictive texting on this phone. It is quite good. Now, the reason I wanted to write that is because you can see there we've now got 2 lines of text. I think it goes up to 3 lines, so you can see quite a bit of the message that you're writing. You can then scroll up. The cursor is now going to move up. No, it's not. It's going to. I can't do this nonsense. Oh, there it is. Look, it's going up and down. Brilliant. So you can scroll up and down as well as left and right. You can't do that in WhatsApp. You have a single line of text. So you can imagine if you have written a fairly long text, you can only see one line of it at a time, and then you have to scroll all the way back to the beginning if you want to proofread it, which, you know, some old-fashioned people like me do. Which leads me on to a slight sideshow here. What is the point of this phone? Because it's obviously not really of any interest to young people. And people are well into their apps and multiple programs and doing lots of different things at once. It's only got 512 megabytes of RAM, so it will keep some programs operating in the background. But if you're going to lose an entire message, if you accidentally press this button here, the close button, without it then saying, do you want to save as draft, that's just poor, isn't it? Nokia, what were you thinking? So if I'm in the middle of writing a text message and I think I want to go and do something else, do I want to save as a draft? Yes, I'll save that as a draft. So that message is now saved as a draft, and I could go and do something else. I'm going to come to WhatsApp in half a minute. This is the main menu. You have the options of having it as a list view, which is like that, or as having single view, which yeah, no comment. Sticking with grid view, you can select the order. In all three views, you can select the order they appear. So I've now set it so that when I first click it, I've got the main ones at the top, in the top couple of rows, the ones that I use the most. But I've also, let's go back out and then come back in, I've also put at the bottom settings. So I could have 2 or 3 at the bottom as well. So you can instantly access your main, I hesitate to call them apps. Clicking on the right hand side of the navigation square takes you to this screen here. You've got 5 options there, which are, as you can see, if I put it close enough, is YouTube, Maps, which I haven't tested, Assistant, which is very efficient, Facebook and WhatsApp. You can't edit this other than to remove Facebook and WhatsApp. Everything else remains. The Assistant is very good. You can speak your messages into the phone and it is pretty accurate as long as you speak with a reasonably clear voice. I wouldn't know what it's like if there's a lot of background noise, but it'll do commas, it'll do full stops and so on. And it was pretty accurate when I tested it in the text messaging app. Let's just have a little quick consider of the other thing, which is a major problem. I'm now in WhatsApp. I don't know if I was showing you that clearly. Clicking on the right hand side. If I click on the right hand side of that, it goes to contacts. Got no friends. If you click on the left hand side, you're back to that menu there. I go to WhatsApp. So I'm in WhatsApp. If I click on a message there, I can start texting my message. I won't bother writing one, but you can see the message box there. It will only be a single line of text. Now, if I just write a couple of quick words in there, if I click that cancel button there, as I said earlier, it'll close it. Bish, bosh, gone. But if I wanted to, suddenly thought, oh, I must do something else, I could click on my messaging box and then write a message if that's what I wanted to do. Or let's say it wasn't that, but I use that as a way of getting to something else, such as I wanted to write a note. I write my notes, I finish that job, bish, bosh, bash. I could then go back to WhatsApp and it would still be there. That would be the only way of guaranteeing my message is still there. There it is, sitting in RAM, waiting for me to operate. So those were the key things that weren't covered by the reviews that I watched. There might be one or two other things, but I've done this without writing any notes. This is actually very tactile, very easy to use, big buttons, no problem there, and the predictive texting is generally quite good. The main problem with the predictive texting is that, I'm just going to take a half a tick to show you, is just when you've got to do apostrophes, there are some slight oddities. For example, if I want to write its, I've written IT, and it just so happens that its is in the list. Scroll along, there's its. I know apostrophes for some reason confuse people. It seems pretty straightforward to me. If I want to write about Kim, who's got something, I then press the bottom right hand button there, which gives me a list. 9 is the apostrophe. I hit 9, there's the apostrophe, and then I hit S. Now that sounds like a bit of a pain in the neck, but actually once you've done it a few times, it's very quick to do. It's quite easy to do. And if I want to write you've, you have, look, you'd is there, okay? I don't think you've is. You'd, so there it's in the list. I could just select that. Your, you'll, yours, wouldn't, young, yourself, you've. Oh, there it is. So you could do it that way. Again, once you've got used to scrolling to choose your word, it's pretty quick. See, the thing is, I'm still using this. This is the Xperia Active. I dropped it yesterday. Bulletproof little phone. But it's Android 2, so you can't do anything other than text and make phone calls and write notes to yourself. Well, you can email on it, actually. So I'm quite used to using the predictive T9 keypad. This isn't as good as using the Android. That old Android is better than this, but this isn't as bad as it seems. It's very workable and one would get used to it. My beef with the phone is that basically, who's it for? It's not for young people. It's quite useful if you go away on a weekend or something and you want fishing or something like that and you just want some old phone, cheapy phone. it's no good for old people because the texting is too difficult and moving around the menus is too difficult. And then some old geezer who's just spent 15 minutes writing a 25-word message to his grandson gets a phone call, presses a wrong couple of buttons, the message is gone. It's going to drive him crazy, isn't it? So it's like offering a carrot to a starving child, or a donkey or something, but never giving it to them, or a biscuit to a dog. It's like so close to being really excellent, and yet it's not. So I would find an alternative if I was you. It's quite fun to open and close. So if you like opening and closing things, buy it. Otherwise, maybe not. If you watch this far, my God, you've got more tenacity than I have. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, I will endeavour to answer them. Ciao. Cheerio.